Hey guys, Scott here. Today I want to talk about Alien and one of the buffs that they received from the PTB to live that I'm not even really sure it was ever asked for. It was just sort of a thing that happened, and I am of the opinion after playing the killer for a while and playing against him for a little while that the change was probably unnecessary. And the main one I want to talk about, Alien actually got a ton of buffs from PTB to live, but the main one I actually want to talk about is this one right here, where the movement speed after missing a tail attack has been increased to 2 meters a second when it was 1.2 while in cooldown. That is a massively significant buff. That is almost a 100% buff to the movement speed after you miss a tail attack. Now, on the PTB, when you missed a tail attack, it was fairly punishing. It actually let survivors get a little bit of distance because you were slow to a crawl as you were recovering from missing the attack. But now it is really not that much at all, to where if you miss a tail attack as Xenomorph right now, survivors, they kind of just have to stay at the loop that they're currently in. There's no way they make enough distance to go somewhere else. So you're sort of in the scenario where you just have to wait until the Xenomorph eventually does hit you with their power, which, it could still take a while, but it doesn't feel good to be immediately locked down due to the threat of the power. And I think we kind of have an old Deathslinger situation. The main reason that old Deathslinger was sort of hated is because he was able to instantly aim and shoot essentially before you could react, unless it was at basically max range. So you were at the scenario where you just sort of had to guess when they were going to shoot, and that's kind of what we got going on here. However, this was mitigated by the fact with Deathslinger that he would eventually have to reload his gun after he shot, and while reloading, he would move very slow. Now, there's add-ons to make it go faster, but during the reload is when you could try to make a distance to something else, right? But this is essentially like the gun, except there's no reload period. So you can just keep shooting the tail over and over again with no real downside. And I am of the opinion they should not have buffed that. I think missing an attack with this killer should be impactful. It should let survivors get some distance somewhere else, because that is equal skill expression on both sides. If the survivor dodges the hit, or if the killer misses, the killer does not deserve to not get punished, and the survivor should not have to just be stuck there anyway. So I do think they should probably revert this buff back to what it was in the PTB. And it didn't even feel that bad on the PTB. It's just 3 seconds of slowdown. It's not that big of a deal. But playing against it now, it does feel like shit when they miss their attack, and then you just have to stay there. And as playing as the killer, I played probably 90% of the killer versus 10% going against them. It didn't feel fair that when I missed the survivors, I just got to shoot again 2 seconds later. It's like, all right, well, I don't know. It didn't feel super rewarding. Other than that, there were a lot of other changes, which I am totally fine with. The turrets not stacking, for example, I think was actually a really good change. But for the most part, this change, I think, should not have gone through. I think the killer is legitimately strong enough, even without that, and we need to give survivors some type of breathing room. If you miss, it increases the skill cap, because the better you are, the less you'll have to deal with the situation. I've also heard reports that it's completely bugged. But I tested this a bunch in Kill Your Friends. It does not appear to be bugged. You do get slowed down when you miss. It's just not that long of a slowdown, and it's not that strong of a slowdown anymore. So compared to the PTB, it almost feels like you're not getting slowed down, but you are. You definitely move slower. There is a bug, apparently, when you hit somebody with your tail, you're not slowed down, but that's not really what I'm talking about here. This is just for when you miss. If you hit, I think, that you should probably be able to gain distance as well. So if there is a bug where if you hit with the tail and you're not slowed down, that needs to be fixed. But what I'm really talking about is the miss here, because I feel like we are approaching an old Deathslinger situation, which was hated by a lot of people, and I just don't want to see that same thing happen again, because everything about the killer is really cool. The aesthetics, the ability, the counterplay and stuff like that, the counterplay of the turrets. As an aside, the counterplay is the turrets. The counterplay is not like dodging the tail whip, because the tail whip is not really something you dodge. It's something that the killer misses, because you can't really react to it. So you're basically predicting it. It's almost like reacting to a huntress who has a charged hatchet and just waiting for them to throw it. You either go for the pallet or you juke it and hope for the best. But it's balanced by the fact that you should make distance after they miss, but that's not currently happening, and that's what we need to have happen for the killer to feel more fair. I do want to make a couple of more discussions about the killer as I play them more and more, but I wanted to go over this point because I do think it feels a bit unfair now, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think too. That's it. Thanks for watching.